They had organized and drilled as best they could, but they were poorly armed for the most part. Their quality varied from very good to didn't have a clue. And confronting that British force at Lexington, a shot rang out. The British opened fire. The troops that you see down the hill in the middle of the field, some of them are in blue. Only about half of them were actual. The others came from Jaeger rifles, which are short rifles. The difference here is rifles have rifling down the barrel. It's grooves cut into the barrel, and it spirals down the barrel, so the projectile spins when it comes out of the rifle. And again, the Hessian Jaegers are marksmen, so they're good at skirmishing. For close fighting, you want light infantry, and you can see on the British side, soldiers coming out wearing cut-down jackets and leather caps. Those are British light infantry. Survivors of Braddock's defeat never forgot the aftermath. What saved them was the fact that the Native Americans went after the wounded and killed every one of them and did not pursue. Surviving British officers, two of them, Lord Augustus Howe and his younger brother William Howe. You'll note that both sides have a cannon out on the field. These are artillerymen, and that the artillerymen are dressed in a similar fashion. At the end of the 1776 campaign, where his army was torn apart in New York and New Jersey, at the time when the Declaration of Independence was adopted, down to less than 5,000. And when he did his famous crossing of the Delaware, it was a moment of desperation, victory or death. He only had about 3,000 men with him, and their enlistments were up to December 31st. When Trenton took place and then Princeton, Washington's army managed to pull off two small but very important victories. But after that, he told Congress, we need soldiers are taking cover. Most of them are standing up so they can load their weapons quickly and also move quickly. When I say quickly, by our standards, they're moving very slowly. But by 18th century standards, they move at a pretty quick clip, especially the light infantry. Now, you will also see in here full-size Continental Regiment, and rarely did you get a full-size regiment, would have 10 drummers, 10 fifers, plus a drum major and fife major. Even with the constant shortages of men on both sides, function in the 17th century was to throw hand grenades. That was in an era where soldiers were using pikes or long spears as their primary weapon, and musketeers. They wanted men who were tall and strong with a good pitching arm, so they could light a hand grenade and toss it at their opponents, especially if they were attacking a fort. By 1750, most European army grenadiers no longer threw the distinction of being the tallest men in the unit. In the British Army, 1775, you had to be at least 5'10" to be a grenadier, and many of them were over 6 feet tall. The regular British soldier, who's wearing what's called a cocked hat, or what most Americans today might see as a three-cornered hat, the average British regular soldier. In actuality, with enlistments, about 90% of the population did not actively engage in the war, so only about 10% did. A total of about 35,000 Germans served in America. When the war was over, about who going to be sent next. Congress had a standing offer that any German soldier who deserted would be given 53 acres of land, probably in Pennsylvania or down in the Shenandoah Valley, with neighbors who spoke German. Pennsylvania at the time of the Revolution was about half German speaking. The city of Philadelphia was half German at the time of the Revolution. Volunteers. Washington's standing order for men who broke the rules by 1777 was 39 lashes. He had a constant problem with discipline in the Army, at least in the first couple of years of the war. Yeah, Now you'll see a large Continental force has taken up a position behind a rail fence. The rail fence is providing zero defense for those men. If British volleys are fired at them, they're going to get hit. They're doing that simply because the fence is there. In the Battle of Germantown in 1777 in October, Germantown had long, narrow fields. It's a village 5 miles from Philadelphia. And one of the problems is the marble. The musket ball is blunt and lead is a soft, heavy metal. Because the ball is smaller than the barrel, if you watch the musket ball go down the barrel when it was fired in slow motion, the ball would kind of bounce around inside where your projectile was going to go. So the effective way to use that kind of weapon is to have the men fire volleys. Load and fire that musket 3 times a minute. That's what a soldier was expected to do, and well-drilled to do that. The one thing you also keep in mind is every time you fire your musket, the barrel heats up. And if you fire 3 shots in 1 minute, you're going to get scorched if you touch that barrel. So that's part of the reason the muskets have wood, a wood stock with them. The main weapon on the 18th century battlefield, especially with the British Army, are bayonets. British troops were excellent at bayonet combat, and the bayonets actually will be coming up to the fence or the rope line so you can see them up close. British bayonets are 18 inches long and they are 3-sided. They're highly polished. So when you would actually see these guys coming at you in battle, you're going to see a gleaming line of steel, which if that doesn't scare the bejesus out of you, nothing will. But you also can have that work in reverse, as you can see on the left side of the field, where the British forces and the Hessians are falling back in some disarray. Even well-disciplined troops can break in battle. Independence in February of 1778, and they sent 20,000 uniforms. They had already been shipping weapons and ammunition over here secretly. So when Washington's army left Valley Forge after a difficult winter, they were well armed. Battles then, as well as today, are fought with tactics. He can really mess things up if he doesn't use tactics that are correct. So it was essential to use tactics and use them carefully. They could move, how far they could fight, etc. General Sir William Howe was an excellent tactician. In the New York campaign and then the Philadelphia campaign, he beat Washington's army time and if you're using the French drill, just the marching step for the French army is different than the British army, is different than the Prussian drill and the Norfolk drill of militia. So if you told your men the forward march, they might move at 5 different paces. General Howe, at the beginning of the New York campaign, when they landed on Staten Island and were going to launch the Battle of Long Island, he issued general orders that British troops were to fix bayonets, stand up, fire maybe 1 or 2 volleys, then rush them with bayonets. And he used that tactic over and over again, and he all but destroyed the Continental Army in that first year of the war. So again, we're going to have to learn to get real good with bayonets and also the 2 armies fought themselves to a standstill. But the grand moment in that battle was when the British Grenadiers and Guards launched an attack on Anthony Wayne's Pennsylvania troops. The Pennsylvanians held their fire till the Guards were 30 yards away. They fired a volley, and Anthony Wayne's battle cry was, "Give them the bayonet through the smoke." And they broke the attack of the British Grenadiers and the Guards. The Guards' commander was killed, Colonel Monckton, and their flag was captured. So that was one of the glory moments for the Continental Army during a very, very long and difficult. Victory was not assured for the United States, ladies and gentlemen, until 1783. The turning point, and the Revolutionary War has many, many turning points. Trenton and Princeton were one of the break and run. By 1778, France was supplying our army with thousands of uniform coats. When Washington's army left Valley Forge, they were mostly dressed in blue or brown coats with red facings, so many of them looked like the soldiers you see on the field here. You'll notice the American drummers are wearing red coats. The tradition in the British Army was to have the musicians